Trey Smith signed the franchise tag earlier on this offseason, and he has until July 15th to get a long-term deal done. I'm Michael Darcy, and I'm joined by Josh Fan from ShowMeFootball.com, and we're going to talk about if Trey Smith is going to get a long-term deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Josh, before I ask you the question, I actually took to the YouTube community tab to ask the Chiefs Kingdom what they thought, and over 83% of the 1,700 Chiefs fans that voted believe that Trey Smith will get a long-term deal done with the Chiefs before the July 15th deadline, which is very optimistic. I want to get your thoughts on this situation. What do you think is going to happen?
I just don't see it happening, to be honest. I just think we've kind of seen this play out many times with a lot of other players on the Chiefs that were needing a contract. I just think the Chiefs are going to dilly-dally like they always have, and we're going to get to the season. Trey Smith's going to say, okay, well, I haven't made that much money in my career, so it's not like I can sit out. The Chiefs know that. He's going to play on the franchise tag. They'll revisit next year. Maybe we'll get an extension. Maybe he gets traded, but I just think this is kind of shaping up to go the way of Orlando Browns and L'Jarius Sneeds of the world.
When Trey Smith signed that $23.4 million franchise tag earlier on in the offseason, that's more money than he has ever seen in his life. He was a sixth-round draft pick, so the fact that he had that chance to get that guaranteed $23 million, he was not going to pass up on playing under the franchise tag. Now, obviously, he wants that long-term security, and I think the reason the Chiefs franchise tagged him to begin with is because he was the best free agent on the market and easily the best, offensive lineman available potentially in free agency. And so it made sense for the Chiefs to put the franchise tag on him. But when it comes to getting a long-term deal done, I'm not sure if they want to give a guard $23+ million over 4 or 5 seasons, because he's likely going to get upwards of $80 to $100 million over 5 years. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets $24-25 million a year.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, going back to our conversations, Michael, at the beginning of the offseason, I think both you and I said, look, paying a guard this much money, it just doesn't make sense in today's NFL. The way that the guard position is going, you see all these guys making a lot of money, including Trey Smith this year. But the question is it smart to pay an interior offensive lineman upwards of $20 million a year, especially when you got Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, guys like that coming up? Do you really want an interior offensive lineman, being the reason you can't keep one of those guys? And we've already seen, Michael, that this team has essentially handed the keys to Kingsley Suamataia, who has proven nothing at left guard to replace Joe Thuney, a perennial all-pro caliber player. So I think the Chiefs have shown not only are they confident in just simply handing the position to other guys, but also we've seen them successfully hit on, plus-level players at the interior offensive line positions. And Nick Allegretti was a very recent example, someone they found in the 6th, 7th round of the draft, started in a Super Bowl in which the Chiefs won, filled in a lot of crucial moments, went on to get paid. He's playing good football for the Washington Commanders now. I just don't think it's a very smart investment, honestly.
When the Chiefs already invested in Creed Humphrey, and so can you rationalize giving... I can't remember what Creed's making a year, but he's getting paid like he is the best center in football. Can you pay $40 million a season for 2 interior offensive linemen? I don't think you can, especially when that interior offensive line, as good as it is, hasn't really solved the left tackle or even really the right tackle problem. Like, you still have problems at the bookend, and it just feels like it's not very good roster construction paying interior offensive linemen, a huge percentage of the salary cap. And I think that the Chiefs are going to be smart with this. They understand that Trey Smith is valuable, and I think they do want to pay him. It's really just going to have to come down to the numbers. And I think that if the Chiefs find some way to give Trey Smith $23 million a year, it might not look good at the start, but when the Chiefs gave Joe Thuney that giant contract, everyone was like, you paid a left guard that amount of money, and that contract looked pretty good over the duration of it. And so I think that the Chiefs are okay with resetting the market, knowing that over 3 or 4 seasons, it's not going to end up being that much.
Exactly. I think you're spot on. I think when you're looking at, you know, what Trey Smith is making this year, I think it's worth it in the short term because we kind of discussed it in a recent video of mine that we did. I don't really have a problem with Trey Smith playing on the tag this year. In hindsight, knowing that they traded Joe Thuney and that there's a lot of new faces on this offensive line, and it's not like that contract necessarily kept you from making other moves, although there was some worry that it would. But I think the Chiefs mostly did everything they wanted to do this offseason, despite handing Trey Smith the franchise tag. But I don't know if that'll be the case next year. That's what you got to be careful about how you navigate this. Are they going to go ahead and franchise tag Trey Smith again next year? And if they do that, how does that affect other moves that they want to make going forward?
When I do want to talk more about why the Chiefs may have made this decision, and we'll do that right after this ad break. The Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway is the place to be. With over 1,500 slot machines, 35 table games, 4 restaurants, and a new ESPN Bet sportsbook, there are plenty of ways to find your fun. For more chances to win, follow them on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Rice Real Estate Group, they're more than just a real estate team. They're a full-service partner in residential, commercial, and investment properties. They specialize in guiding clients through every stage, from the buying and selling process to handling complex, short sale situations with ease. Their passion lies in the personal one-on-one care they bring to every client relationship, ensuring each experience is tailored, smooth, and successful. Here it's all about building trust, delivering expertise, and ensuring every client feels valued throughout their journey. For more information, call Marla Rice at 816-819-9333. Huge thanks to the sponsors that support this channel all off-season long. So Josh, one of the biggest things that I've heard from Chiefs fans is that why franchise tag Trey Smith if you're not going to pay him? And I kind of see that argument because the Chiefs had a chance to franchise tag and trade Trey Smith during this offseason where he was a premier commodity, and next season he's going to be a year older. He's probably not going to have the same value via trade, and a team's definitely not going to give a guy that's going to have to be a free agent or play under the franchise tag again that type of money or that type of asset via trade. So I feel like there is a legitimate gripe that if the Chiefs don't end up paying Trey Smith, they didn't end up selling high.
Yeah, I get it, but I kind of just said it a minute ago. Like, I think because of the fact that you traded Joe Thuney and you have so many new faces on this line, you want to keep some sort of stability on it, and keeping Trey Smith definitely helps with that, even if you don't plan to keep him long term. Because I think there is a good chance that the Chiefs, had a meeting, entering this offseason, and they said, what do we do as far as the guard position goes? We have to let go of one of these guys just because of everything else that we have to deal with. Like, one of these guys has to go. Which one is it going to be? Do we want to tag and trade Trey Smith and keep Joe Thuney, who, has kind of had some injuries pile up over the past couple of years and some other things, and maybe is kind of on the decline, whereas Trey Smith is maybe on the way up. We know that Brett Veach values the youth and athleticism and everything like that. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, it made more sense to keep Trey Smith just for that one extra year because he is the younger up-and-coming player, but also, gives you that familiarity just because it's probably going to be a new left tackle and a new left guard and some shuffling around here.
When that's the thing, the Chiefs need to think long-term here, and if they think that Trey Smith can give you 4 or 5 really good seasons, all-pro seasons, they need to consider paying him. And I might not be thrilled about it, but I can understand paying a homegrown talent who's good enough to be an all-pro that type of money. For the stability on the offensive line, which has been such an issue over the last 5 or 6 seasons, I think that it would be frustrating at first, but like I said with the Joe Thuney contract, over time I think we'd be like, wow, that was an absolute steal. And so if the Chiefs are going to pay Trey Smith, the time is now, because he's only going to get more expensive if he goes out this season and performs very well. And I don't know if you actually saw this, but on social media, the social media team did a, my first day back at school type thing where they had different Chiefs players holding up like a board with their goals
Yeah.
and like what year they were entering. And Trey Smith's goal for the 2025 season was to stay healthy. And my first thought is, oh, he's trying to stay healthy so he can get paid this offseason or next offseason because he has a chance to make generational money.
It's a contract year, right? And that's something that the Chiefs have heavily bet on for a lot of guys in the past is the contract year. But the question is, are you going to get that same level of play in the contract year, if you were to give that guy a bunch of money and a big new contract? L'Jarius Sneed, we saw with him, Chiefs probably dodged a bullet there. L'Jarius Sneed balled out in his contract year, did not come close to that level of play the following year with the Titans. Now, you can argue that the Titans being a mess and maybe that defensive system not being a fit for him, so on. But, the point is that the Chiefs kind of have a line in the sand. They have a way of operating that a lot of us may not agree with, but it's kind of worked.
Yeah. No, and I think it's so hard because as fans, we fall in love with players, but the Chiefs being able to say, you know what? Thank you for your service. Thank you for your contributions to this team. We're going to get out from under this contract, out from under this potential hazard a year early rather than a year late. It's why they've been able to keep this dynasty going. If you held on to certain guys because of what they meant to the culture or what they meant to, the locker room, the Chiefs probably wouldn't have been to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls.
Exactly. And I fully agree.
And so I think that going forward, Trey Smith is one of those guys that if the Chiefs can find some way to make it work under the salary cap, I'm not against it, but I'm really going to have to see those numbers because you really can't pay him $25 million a year. But if you can get him $23 million, a year for the next 4 or 5 seasons, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. But the question is, are the Chiefs and Trey Smith going to come to a deal by July 15th? And that, I'm not so confident.
Yeah, I think usually the Chiefs, I think if they don't agree to a new contract with the player before training camp, it's probably not getting done this year.
Yeah, because they're not going to get something done mid-training camp. And I don't think that Trey Smith is the kind of guy to hold out from training camp because this is someone...
He can't. He doesn't have enough money. He's a 6th-round pick.
He does have, eventually, the $23 million guaranteed, but... those paychecks aren't going to start hitting till, the regular season starts.
And they're going to be deducted from if he sits out.
And I don't think that he's the kind of guy to, sit out and get fined. I don't think he's going to pull a Chris Jones. I think he's going to happily play under the fully guaranteed franchise tag if they don't end up getting a deal done. But, Josh, I think we're both in agreement that the Chiefs and Trey Smith are not going to get a deal done. We'd both be pleasantly surprised if they do. But right now, we're under a week away until July 15th deadline. So far, not really anything's going on. So I think we're going to have to watch this situation very closely. But either way, Trey Smith is going to be playing for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2025. So, Josh, I think that's all the time we have in this video. My final question for you is, where can the people find your stuff?
You can find me here on YouTube. Channel name is Show Me Football. Check out my work on showmefootball.com for more. And lastly, follow me on Twitter at ShowMeFB.
And guys, all of that stuff will be linked in the description of this video. Hit that like button, subscribe for more Daily Chiefs content. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video. And as always, go Chiefs.